Darksiders is a hack-slash-action-adventure role-playing game developed in 2010 by THQ, and you want to know if you should buy it or not? Well, I'm going to tell you, but first you should probably know what you're buying. In this game, you play as War, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. In Darksiders lore, heaven and hell are at a stalemate, so a council comes forth with a set of rules to resolve the conflict. One of them is that they have to give mankind a chance to grow before including them in the huge war. If anyone breaks the rules, the horsemen are called in to stop them. The four horsemen are essentially cops who, when together, can't be stopped. That's why everybody plays by their rules. The only problem is you are the only one summoned, and by yourself, you seem to fall to the first guy you see. So the council thinks War caused the conflict by siding with Hell and bringing on the apocalypse early, so he sets out to clear his name. Of course, the council strips him of his true power because the game has to give you something to build towards. So from the ground up, you slowly rebuild your strengths and get new items and abilities that you didn't have before by doing a whole lot of FedEx quests. That's okay though, because you know you have a reason to do these quests. You're essentially powerless and don't know anything, but you still have a reputation. All the demons that you talk to all have a personal agenda and want you to do something badass for them before telling you what you want to know. And because you're by yourself, you aren't very strong, so you have no other choice. You really feel yourself getting stronger as you do these quests for everyone because you're slowly regaining your strength. One problem I had with this game is that the combat is fairly easy. I played on the normal difficulty and really had no problem beating the game. I beat it without having the abyssal armor, without having 3/4 of the spells, without having all the wrath and life cores, and without having all the moves. All the enemies in this game were kind of a pushover, so you really didn't have to use all the abilities. But that's okay though, because at the heart of this game, it truly is a collection platformer. The puzzles in this game are super tricky to accomplish your first time going through, but as you progress through the dungeons, the game gives you items to help you overcome certain challenges, notably your throwing cross and hookshot. With more and more items, you'll find that backtracking becomes a lot easier because the things you painstakingly had to manually go through before become shortened if you can use your items correctly. Even though this is a form of padding to make the game longer, it worked because you didn't just have to do the same thing over and over again. Even when I was going back through the dungeons to get all the abyssal armor pieces and the artifacts after I beat the game, I was having a little bit of problems remembering where to go, so I was exploring it all over again. And as I was doing this, I got enough souls to be able to afford the moves and spells that I didn't get when I went through the game the first time, and I really wish I had, because as I used them on a lot of the monsters, I found that they were really awesome, except for Stone Skin. That one, whatever. I loved this game. At first I only wanted to play it because I also had Darksiders 2 from a Humble Bundle, and I heard the second one was really good. I didn't think I'd care for the first just because I'm not a huge fan of the God of War series and it looked a lot like that. I just don't care for quick time-driven combat, okay? I was wrong. This game played out to be an action platformer, so like Banjo-Kazooie plus Rambo. It handles super well and it looks really nice, at least on the Steam version. The combat is granted a little repetitive, but I never got bored because I was always getting stronger. And the puzzles kept me in the game for like 20 hours, when the speedrun record for this game is just 40 minutes. The game is played from a third-person's perspective, using both joysticks to move War as well as swing the camera around. The movement is nearly perfect, and pretty much everything is part of the environment. On the Xbox 360 gamepad, it handled like a dream. When running from zone to zone, you don't have to fight anything, and I'm really glad they didn't try to extend their game that way. It's already a little cumbersome to have to either run from zone to zone or take the serpent holes. But even still, I often stop to fight the bigger monsters because they're a little more challenging than the small guys, and the amount of souls you get is totally worth it. The combat revolves around you swinging your sword using X as your spam button. The Y button is your second weapon, either a scythe or a glove, and the right trigger uses one of your items, some of which have effective uses in combat while others don't. Your main weapons level up as you hit stuff, that's your X and Y weapons, which translates to being able to purchase more moves from Vulgrim. Vulgrim takes souls as money, so the more you kill, the more money you have. Bigger kills means bigger bounties. He will sell you different variations of pressing X or Y, including using different directions, as well as adding them with the right bumper for the Xbox 360. After unlocking level 1 of everything, I was really pleased to find a bunch of different button combinations, so it made the fights a lot more interesting as I could mix up my buttons however I wanted. I was constantly saying, I found the strongest way to kill stuff, and feeling super proud of myself, and I kept getting better and better and better. Despite all that was really good about this game, there were still a couple problems I had with it. The movement was fine and good, but I found that if you timed your air dash to stop right before crashing into the ground and then chaining it into another dash, or just jumping and air dashing and jumping and dashing again over and over again, you seem to move around a lot faster. I don't have a problem with that in itself, but after I discovered that trick, it seemed almost mandatory to do it. That's the same with the combat. The dash can be used in combat to run yourself into an enemy, causing them to flinch a little bit. Then you can use one X attack to cause attack damage. When you spam these two buttons over and over again, it seemed to be faster than doing regular combos. It made me feel awesome and that I was great at the game, but when I bought the batter upgrade, I lost the ability to do that super proficiently and became sad, but I learned to use the actual weapon combos a lot better, so it all worked out in the end, I guess. Another part I didn't like was that at the end of the game, after collecting all the shards of the Armageddon Blade, your Chaos Eater gets replaced and you can't re-equip it, and all the experience that you had pumped into your Chaos Eater gets replaced because the Armageddon Blade is max level. So I really like Darksiders, and I'm really happy that I played it before playing the second. I went from wanting to play the game only to play the second, to wanting to play the game because it's a really good game. With that said, this game is a 7 out of 10, but it really feels like a 9 out of 10 as you're playing. Some points are reduced because of the padding and taking away my Chaos Eater. Maybe someday I'll 100% and get all the achievements, but I didn't by any means need to, because after dying a couple times I was able to figure out the final boss fight and see how the story ended. Which leaves the game open for a sequel that would have made me long for Darksiders 2 if I had played the game when it first came out. Darksiders, 7 out of 10. Feels like 9 out of 10. Definitely buy this game.